How's it going, everybody? I'm just going to give my quick thoughts over Beyond Light as a whole, and this year has really changed my perspective on Destiny and how I play the game. So we're just going to be going over all of Beyond Light this entire time. It's hard to believe that Beyond Light came out like a year and a half ago, and we are just on the doorstep of the Witch Queen right around the corner. I cannot wait. But yeah, so let's talk about year 4. So, year 4 had a lot of positives, but I feel like it was very, very, very much soured by the launch of year 4, and that was obviously with sunsetting. So, if you guys don't know, for some reason, if you don't know, sunsetting basically removed a massive, massive chunk of the game from the game. It removed a massive amount of content from the game. So, I lay it all out on paper. Escalation Protocol, Black Armory Forges, The Reckoning, Menagerie, Novi Labs, 0 Hour, The Whisper, 7 Crucible game modes, 13 Crucible maps, 2 Gambit maps, 3 campaigns, 5 raids, 7 strikes, and 5 entire planets. Plus the countless weapons that just got power capped, and lots of junk. So, sunsetting kinda makes sense in a way, but I feel like certain aspects of sunsetting could have been handled much, much better. For example, if there are certain problematic weapons in the game, just sunset those. Like if you know a weapon's gonna be overpowered, just make that sunsettable or something. But I also like how they are doing it in the Witch Queen, which kind of makes the player like sunset the weapons on their own accord. So the problem with sunsetting to me was that a lot of stuff should have stayed. So basically, I think all of the raids, Menagerie, 0 Hour, Whisper, and the Strikes, PvP, and Gambit maps, those have all should have stayed. It doesn't really make sense from a player perspective. It's like, it would make more sense if let's remove all of Titan. Like, yeah, that makes sense. But then you load up the Crucible, and there's still some Titan maps. How does that make any sense? Or the Titan Gambit map? Or how does it make sense that Dreaming City wasn't sunset, but the Dreaming City Gambit map was? A lot of this stuff just didn't make a lot of sense to the players, including myself. I would have just been more fine with, like, okay, they're getting rid of Mars, whatever, just all of Mars, cool. But it didn't really help that things like the Mars Gambit map stayed around, so it didn't really make a lot of sense. So I feel like a lot of the key content, such as the raids, Menagerie, and 0 Hour, and Whisper, and all that, those are like staples of Destiny. Like, those are massive parts of what a lot of people enjoy about Destiny, and they're just flat out removed. And I'll go into this a little bit later with Presage, but you know, a lot of this like endgame stuff really should be stapled in the game regardless. So that was a massive brunt of the Beyond Light launch, and was not very well celebrated. So now let's talk about Beyond Light proper. So Stasis, we had Stasis as a new subclass, an entirely new damage type, super good, but also just eviscerated any enjoyment for PvP. Like, oh my gosh, PvP was almost quite literally unplayable at this point. But Stasis was fun because I'm mainly a PvE player anyway, so I do not care about PvP regardless of if you can get frozen or not. So, Beyond Light also dropped with the Deep Stone Crypt. This was going to replace 5 entire raids. This was a raid that was replacing everything. So, obviously, this was very, very easy, especially right at the beginning, right at the get-go. So it was a massive disappointment since the last raid we got was Garden of Salvation. So we waited 1 whole year for this. I mean, the Deep Stone Crypt visually, mechanically is pretty cool, but in terms of combat challenge is like a joke. It's a walk in the park, even today. So yeah, very disappointing there. I do like Deep Stone Crypt overall, but you know, like the combat challenge is just not there. So Europa as a whole was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool planet. I really liked an all ice tundra planet. You know, we had that a little bit with the Cosmodrome and Rise of Iron, or the Plaguelands, I mean, but still, it's better that we get this as a whole. And speaking of the Cosmodrome came back, which was pretty cool, and we got a strike, the Disgraced, which was, I believe, from the Crota's End, or the Dark Below DLC, I mean, the what's it called? The Omnigul Strike. I forgot the actual name of the strike, but it's the Omnigul Strike. And they changed it up a little bit, not too much, but, you know, still pretty cool. And then we start with Season of the Hunt, which, coming off of, you know, Season of the Worthy and, you know, Season of our Rivals to a certain extent, this was just so bad. Season of the Hunt was so boring. There was nothing to do. There was no point to it. It was literally just like a prologue. And we'll talk about the rest of the seasons in a minute, but man, Wrathmorn hunts were just so boring. The only thing I can really say was the Harbinger mission. That was like the only good part about Season of the Hunt, but everything else just, oh man, that was just bad. And just as a whole, Destiny was just in a very bad spot, especially just coming fresh off of sunsetting. Basically, like more than half the game, actually. Like 2/3 of the game gone, just like that. Like the snap of fingers, just gone. So Destiny, very bad spot. And I was thinking it was just gonna be another shitty year of a shitty game, and I'm held at gunpoint to play because basically I have nothing better to do. So what is the point in everything? And I remember Season of the Hunt, I actually did not actually buy it because I just wasn't a fan of Beyond Light. And the Crow, my god, that was a huge pill to swallow. But let's move on to Season of the Chosen. We get a new Helm area, so this is very cool. I wish this was connected to the tower, like basically just a new region of the tower instead of an entirely different having to go to orbit, and then completely load in a new area. I wish it was just kind of connected to the tower. But the main point of Season of the Chosen was to just completely shift up the narrative and like taking Destiny in a new direction, which I think was very cool, because we kind of had at Season of Rivals, it's kind of like the pyramids, they're here, now what? Well, now we know what, because we got the Crow here, and now we got all this cool stuff going on with Keitel and all that, and the Callus in the background, and all that. So very cool narrative shift in Destiny. So this is the point. If you were to mark somewhere on a timeline, this is where Destiny's story gets good. So then we have Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds, you know, I really wasn't the biggest fan because I was just still very fatigued from Beyond Light's launch. So Battlegrounds, as good as they are, I personally did not really connect with them. So I can admit Battlegrounds is a very good activity. It has a lot of enemy density, I mean a lot. And I am a really big fan of how they handle combat in the Battlegrounds. But personally, I just checked out at that point, and I just needed a break. But yeah, the new Proving Ground strike. It doesn't suck. It's not a terrible strike. I know in Grandmaster mode it's just ugh, but pretty much every other mode, like in general play, very good. We also got a few new strikes. Well, actually not new, but returning strikes. We got the Devil's Lair and the Fallen Saber. These really drove home like the sun setting aspect. It was like, okay, I kind of get where we're going with this, you know? And the Devil's Lair, oh, masterpiece. My favorite strike in the game, forever and always. Love this thing. So, we also got seasonal challenges. This was kind of like the Fortnite Battle Pass, like weekly challenges thing, where you get extra XP and sometimes Bright Dust or other things and other materials for completing it. And it's a great addition to the long-term game. And thank god, it is cross-character progression. Because oh my god, if you had to do it 3 times a week, I was gonna get a little mad there, you know, a little antsy. But we got Presage, and Presage is a masterpiece. If you have not played Presage, you only got like a few more days to do it. This is going to be the last time you're ever going to be able to play Presage, and it sucks. Like, why is it being sunset? Just like the raids previously and everything, why is Presage going away? It makes, like, God, these missions are so good. They're too good to be removed. We also went with this season with a lot of awesome new weapons. So a lot of the old weapons that were sunset that we miss have been replaced by these awesome new Cabal themed weapons. Which takes us to the season of the Splicer. The override was you know, kind of back to the Gambit mode where we've been kind of sick of Gambit forever now, you know, where in like Season of Rivals we have that public event, that sort of thing, and Prophecy, that was like the entire dungeon was moats. we're just kind of so sick of anything related to Gambit. But to make up for it, the narrative, this was like where the narrative really took off. Like, I loved the narrative of Season of the Splicer. I think probably hands down this is probably the best storytelling, especially since there wasn't really a major threat involved. It was just kind of infighting between everything. Obviously in Witch Queen we got Savathun, that's the big bad. We don't really have a big bad, so Bungie really had to try and prove themselves to these minor threats, and how it's not capital G good and capital B bad. It's just kind of in a big gray area. So I really enjoyed this season, and especially the bedtime story cutscene. Oh my god. So then we got Expunge, and Expunge, you know, it was kind of like Override, but Expunge was for a different reason. That's because we just came off of Presage, so that was like the expectation, and then we were kind of sorely disappointed. Or at least something similar to Harbinger, you know, where we have this exotic mission quests going throughout the year. So, you know, we were kind of disappointed with that, but, you know, not too bad. Also could have been better. But we do get made up for it with the Vault of Glass returning. The Vault of Glass returning was kind of a big question mark for me. Like, I was just kind of very hesitant, especially since at the time I was very recently playing the Destiny 1 version of Vault of Glass, and I was very cautious. I'm like, man, this is boring, this is gonna suck. But actually playing it blew my expectations away. I was very impressed with how they remastered all the mechanics and all the stuff, and it does look way better visually. Like, it's actually, I don't actually have to cover my eyes when I'm looking at an oracle here. But with that, we got Master Vault of Glass. And Master Vault of Glass, it was okay. It's a nice challenge, but my god, this is, if you're trying to challenge your players, this is not the way to do it, man. Like, jeez, this mode, this master mode is just brutal and just not fun. I play with a lot of really good players, and no one wants to do Master Vault of Glass. If you want to do master level or hard mode level content in a raid setting, this is not the way to do it. So, going back to the story, we had the Endless Night, which was pretty cool. It had a lot of cool visuals, so I guess that was the pro of Expunge and Override, was that the visuals were super cool. It's like this cool neon aesthetic, like in Tron, kinda. And then on top of that, continuing the awesome weapons from last season. And then finally we get to the Season of the Lost. Oh man, so the slightly better 6-man, I really like Astral Alignment. I feel like it's okay for a 6-man activity, but we do have another giant, enormous pill to swallow, and that is the fact that this season is 6 months long, almost to the day. Oh my gosh, this season's been going on since August. That was the summer. Oh lord. So yeah, with the Season of the Lost, we did get the Shattered Realm, and it was pretty cool. It had some cool secrets, but it's the same problem with the Expunge, and left a little bit to be desired, especially after Presage, but what you gonna do? So, this is the season where Savathûn got introduced, and this is where, I do like the whole narrative, but, it's kind of like, oh, of course, everything is tied back to Savathûn, so it's kind of like, the big bad, where I was a little bit, like, I still enjoy the narrative, but I'm not, like, wowed or... But this season came with probably the thing that made me play PvP the most, and that is the Trials Revamp. So the Trials Revamp finally got me to go flawless, not once, but twice. And that is more Trials than anything else I've ever played in my entire life. So I guess Season 15 isn't that bad after all. It made me not completely despise Trials. But we did get Stasis Legendaries, and that was finally a good send-off with how Stasis evolved throughout the year. So Stasis Legendaries, finally a new damage type in our weapons. Because we had some Stasis Exotics, but this finally proved that Stasis is a common weapon. So let's finally wrap it up with the 30th anniversary. And luckily, this kind of broke up the 6-month break that we had with this season. So it was pretty fun. This was a great 6-player activity. I really like the 6-player activity. I really like the Dares of Eternity thing. And we have my favorite dungeon to date. And that, no, it's not because it's easy. Shut up. It's because it's the least annoying in my opinion. Like, I like Pit of Heresy. I like nothing else. Pit of Heresy is probably my other favorite dungeon just because it's not annoying. Prophecy, my god. If you could just skip that cube encounter, that would be my favorite, but man, that cube encounter, holy shit. And then Shattered Throne, just kind of ugly to look at. So yeah, I guess my default Grasp of Avarice is my favorite dungeon. So, the thing I really like about it is the first time experience. The first time experience really kind of sets the bar for me, and I really love the first time experience in Grasp of Avarice, especially taking all my friends through it. I think I got to take like 6 different runs of new friends going through this dungeon. So lots of fun emotes to earn, and I really wish that more seasonal events were like this, where you could earn the emotes. There were also some emotes reserved for the store. So with the 30th anniversary, Bungie weapons from old games, including Halo, super fun, and lots of fun cosmetics. So, and then finally wrapping it up, we just got the Exorcism Mission. So, that was pretty cool. It has a lot of cool visuals, and I'm glad that Osiris is not completely dead. So hopefully Satan 14 and Osiris can have at least a few minutes to breathe, before they get thrown in the shitter again. But, Exorcism, pretty cool. I just wish we didn't have to wait 6 goddamn months for this whole thing. Like, I would have been fine if this was like in December or something, but what you gonna do? So that's gonna be it for my thoughts and everything on the overview of Year 4 of Destiny 2 Beyond Light, and I'll see you guys in the Witch Quest.